Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome to another conversation at the lunch counter. Glad you're here with us. I'm with my friend and a engineering and physics professor here at NNU, Dr. Dan Lawrence. Dan, thanks for coming. Thanks for being a part of this.
Glad to be here.
So, as you know, NNU is an intentionally Christian university. We're also a liberal arts university, which I guess you could say makes us a Christian liberal arts university. What do you think is the significance of being both Christian and liberal arts?
Well, that's an interesting question. I just had this conversation in one of my classes, my astronomy class, about how sometimes, especially as we're growing up, sometimes in school we're asked to have this particular worldview, and then when we go to youth group or the church, we're asked to have a completely different worldview.
Yeah.
And I said, sometimes it feels like you're schizophrenic. You have to believe or do one thing one place and something else another place. The thing that a Christian liberal arts university should do, and hopefully do well, is how do I integrate all the ways my thoughts about science and politics and history and theology, how do I put all those together so that I can have a coherent worldview?
Yeah.
And I don't have to feel that I'm hiding one part of my life when I go out into the world, that I can go out and bring all these ideas together.
Sure.
So that I feel free, I feel liberated in everything that I do and say and how I interact with people.
Yeah. That's beautiful. So, as you know, you've been here a while. You've interacted with thousands of students by this point. They come from a variety of faith backgrounds. From your perspective, how does NNU kind of steward that journey? How does NNU help them on their faith journey?
Well, I think one of the things that we do well is not push a particular bent of theology or belief. What we try to do, or at least what I try to do in my classes, is say, number one, I hope that you have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
That you know who Jesus is. And then, how do we use that in the areas that we're studying? So, for example, in engineering for years, one of the things that all students have to do is they have to do a senior design project. How do you take everything that you've learned and design and build something? One of those, since the beginning, has always been mission related.
Yeah.
Because I always ask my students, how do you take the talents and abilities that you have learned and allow them to further God's kingdom? Not just, hey, you're going to be a scientist or engineer, you're going to make a lot of money tied to your church.
Yeah.
But how do I use those things to impact the kingdom? So one way to model that is in our mission trips is, how do we use the talents and abilities to go impact a mission field, whether that is in a third world country needing basic services, or in a first world country, how do we interact with some organization in a way that helps them achieve their goals?
Yeah. So students come here, they're here for 4 years, occasionally they're here for 5.
Or 6.
Yeah. How do we prepare them for life beyond their university education, for the next phase?
Sure. I mean, we do have our liberal arts core, right, where we try to put all the things that we've already talked about together. But specifically, say in my area, in physics and engineering, try to give them a really good fundamental understanding of the way the world works. how do the laws of physics and the way that we design and build things in engineering, how do we do that and how do we do that well? Right? That's something that any good school should do.
Sure.
I think, based on my students' careers and their pathways, that we're doing a very good job. But also, again, going back to integrating all these, how do I do this in a way that allows me to live into the mission of NNU, of being a creative and redemptive agent in the world? How do I take the knowledge and the abilities that I've gained into an organization or a company or even my own business? How do I allow that to redeem the way that people view engineering, view science? How do I put that all together? And those discussions that we have, at the end of class or outside of class, of putting that all together, I think really helps a student when they go out to redeem their career path. The people in there to make it what we see that God really wants it to be.
Yeah. So it's pretty common for us to hear from students here that we do college different. They say that. Sometimes they use those words, sometimes they express it differently. But how would you say we do college different here?
College different. Different doesn't always mean good, right?
Sure.
So I hope that in this case, different means good. There are some things that we don't do different, that you don't want different. You want good theory.
Right.
You want good examples. You want good instructors teaching you things that are true, right? And understanding not only that they are true, but why we believe they're true and how they're true, whether that's theology or physics.
Right.
The thing that we do different than a lot of universities is we try to have that conversation with, this is not only why we believe the things, but here's the reason. How do we take this schizophrenic worldview that people sometimes have and put it together? How do we take our thoughts and feelings and beliefs about all these various areas and put them together and have those conversations, sometimes difficult conversations, that you don't get at every university?
Yeah. That's great. That's wonderful. Thanks for spending time. This is fun.
No problem.
Yeah.
It's my joy to have these conversations, not only with you, but with my students.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.